So as far as they're concerned, idolatry was widespread. It was widespread. And so because this idolatry, we're coming to question and answer in a moment, just a moment. And so because idolatry was widespread, and because they believed the vast majority of those people were upon falsehood, this is precisely why they said they are upon idolatry. Number three, the authority of their tiny cult rests on one person put in place of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. They put someone in his place as the sole expositor and explainer of doctrine and giver of authority. They start by proclaiming that they alone have the knowledge that is in the revelation of the book and the sunnah, and they alone understand what it means. Here's what we mean. Here's what we mean. Here's what we mean. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab told two of his harshest critics. He told two of his harshest critics, Imams Adbul ibn Dawood al-Basri and Alawi al-Haddad. He said, quote, the Sharia is one. He said, quote, the Sharia is one. What is wrong with the people? What is wrong with the people who have made it into four madhabs? Here we have the book of Allah, the sunnah of the messenger of Allah. We do not act except by these two things. We do not take our orders or obey the judgments of the people of Sham, Egypt, India, or anyone else for that matter. I'll read this quote again because I think it's significant for us to keep this in mind. Let us look at what's been said. Muhammad Abdul Wahhab told two of his harshest critics, Imams Adbul al-Basri and Alawi al-Haddad, the Sharia is one. What is wrong with these people who've made it into four methods? Here we have the book of Allah and the sunnah of the messenger of Allah. We do not act except by these two things. We do not take our orders or obey the judgments of the people of Sham, Egypt, or anywhere else for that matter. This is what he said. Now, what does this mean? Imam Abdullah ibn Dawood al-Basri said, quote, he was referring to the scholars of the Hanbali school and other schools as well, close quote. Now this is taken from As-Sawa'ib al-Ruru for Raddi ala Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Saud, chapter 2, Misbah al-Anam, pages 129 to 130. And the same thing was said to Imam Zayd Ahmad some few years later. And this is quoted in his text at Dura Saniyah fi Radd ala al-Wahhabiyya, pages 44 to 45. What does all this mean? It means that the particular cult, that particular organization, has become the sole authority, and that its way of understanding Islam is the only way that Islam can be understood. Let's go further. Muhammad Abdul Wahhab said another point. Most of what is in Al-Iqna' and Al-Muntaha opposes the school of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and his words, and even more so it opposes the text of the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him. And those who know that. And that is the case in all the books of the people of methods. This is from Hashaf al-Roll al-Murbi' Shamzat al-Mustaqan, volume 6, pages 17 through 18. This is a very important point because of this reason. If you eliminate the laity of the Muslims, you take away the scholars, you take away the methods, you take away the fiqh, you take away everything else. If you do that, what's left? Nothing. To understand the revelation with, you have nothing else to understand the revelation. So what happens? Someone must step in and interpret, which is who? The leader of the organization. When the cults have their authority, the follower will not be able to divest it from actual Islam. Here's what I mean. The first thing that someone that is introduced to this cult will usually be given, again, these are beautiful, gorgeous, amazing looking books. This is what they will first be given. And the emphasis will be upon these and not the revelation. By the time they've digested these two big bags behind me, the books on this table you see in front of me, and they come to the revelation, their minds have already been pre-programmed to understand what Allah and His Messenger have said in the specific way that they have been taught and told. Let's look at an example. Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, one of his students, Hamid ibn Nasir ibn Uthman Mu'ammar, said, quote, "There are those who think that the meanings of the texts regarding the attributes are not known, that the meaning of what Allah and His Messenger said, it's not known, but they have to recite the texts without the intention or meaning for them. They say that no one knows the meaning except Allah. They think that they do not know the meanings of the names and attributes of Allah. These people are entirely ignorant of the creed of the pious predecessors. This makes it seem as if the first generations, the immigrants, the helpers, the rest of the companions, recited these passages, related the statements about descent and the like, and did not know the meaning." Close quote. This is taken from Tuhfat al-Madaniyya fil Aqidah al-Salafiyyah, pages 42 to 45 and 47 to 49. But how does this square with what Imam Ahmad rahimahullah said in pages 5 through 6 of Lum'at al-I'tiqad when he said, "Nu'minu biha wa nusaddiqu biha la kayfa la ma'na." We believe in them, we attest to them without how, without meaning. Or when he said, rahimahullah, in his al-I'tiqad, he said, "We establish the existence of the attribute and its uniqueness, bila tahdid, but without definition." Without definition. Second to this, it is up to the believer to prove that he is Muslim or Islamic enough. The creed of the common Muslim is never seen as adequate and is usually viewed with suspicion. The organization revamped the understanding of Tawheed. This organization revamped the understanding of Tawheed. Let's take a look. Muhammad Abdul Wahhab said about common Muslims and Kashf al-Shubahat al Tawheed, quote, "These idol worshippers already knew that Allah was the only creator, with no power for Him. No one sustains except for Him. No one gives life but Him. No one gives death but Him. No one has designed affairs except Him. So the idol worshippers that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, fought against, knew this fact." And this is taken from the Arabic version of it, pages 3 through 4, and it's also taken from the English explanation of Muhammad Abdul Wahhab's Kashf al-Shubahat al Tawheed, a critical analysis of shirk. How does this square with what the Prophet ﷺ said? Because it is insisted that when a new Muslim is met, he is pile drive with questions. Where is Allah? What are the three Tawheeds? What is this? What is that? And the assumption is made that he must prove his Islam first, and then he is a Muslim. Prior to then, he must question, he must find out. But what about the statement of the Prophet ﷺ to the Bedouin Dhimam al-Tha'laba, who said, "By the one who created the sky, the earth, and the lofty mountains, has Allah sent you as a messenger?" And he ﷺ said, "Indeed." Let's take it to the Sahih of Muslim. So he's asking about the most basic things. No fancy theology, no newfangled terms. And these newfangled terms and ideas that become planted in the mind of a Muslim who will spend his life memorizing phrases and not revelation. You will have people who for 8 years will attend the university studying these books. For 5 years they will go through that same book. But why? Because once they approach the revelation, then they can be taken advantage of. Number 4, finally, mood swings or threats of violence, tendencies towards frenzy. Okay? We've already covered this before. In summing up, let's look at the situation. The first thing that's done is they attempt to arrest the mind of a believer by taking hold of the believer, occupying his mind. The next thing that happens is the believer is told only this organization is correct and the vast majority is incorrect. And then finally, the believer is told, now follow us, and those that oppose us, we're to deliver violence to them. My final point is Muslim orthodoxy has it said. Muslim orthodoxy has it said. I don't wish to take too much more of your time. What I want to do is now quote some of the statements of the Orthodox Muslims, or Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the Sunnis. What do they say about Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab? Because the dynamic that we don't want to happen is that the speaker is the only one that's giving this information. This is not my dynamic. These are not my words. So let's look at what's been said. We will quote each school and quote their scholars. Firstly, we have the Hanbali school. Imam Muhammad ibn Abdul Rahman Al-Hanbali. He died 1164 Hijri or AD 1751. He received numerous death threats. He was a chief judge, an alim, a scholar. He wrote books against Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, and he said that he should not be followed and that he's not a scholar nor qualified. This is Muhammad ibn Abdul Rahman Al-Hanbali, eyewitness, received death threats. The second scholar is Imam Muhammad ibn Ahmad al-Safarini. He died 1188 Hijri, 1774. He wrote a book called Answers to Najd regarding questions about Najd. He wrote major works about the cult and is considered one of the best in the field. Again, an eyewitness. Imam Isa al-Qaduni, who received death threats, was instrumental in preaching against the movement. And he was a courier for Imam Muhammad ibn Ahmad al-Safarini. And he also held that Muhammad Abdul Wahhab's movement is the Khawarij. We have Imam Sulaiman ibn Abdul Wahhab, who died 1210 Hijri, 1796 AD. They tried to murder him twice. He was eventually kidnapped and tortured until he died. He wrote this book, Divine Light, a decisive response to Muhammad Abdul Wahhab. He said, "Peace be upon the one who follows the guidance." Pages 4 through 5. This phrase, "As-salamu man ittabi'a al-huda," is only used for a false prophet or a kafir. It's the only time we see the Prophet ﷺ in the seerah using that expression. This is very serious. Sheikh Sulaiman also says, quote, "Indeed he, peace and blessing," no, he says, quote, "We ask you, are you attempting to derive rulings from the Qur'an? We've already previously made consensus that it's not permissible for people like you to try to make ijtihad. It's not permissible for people like you to try to understand something without following people of knowledge." This is from pages 70 to 71 of Divine Light. He also says, quote, "Indeed he, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, gave a general warning in the hadith about the East, and he specified Najd, by that it is the place where the horn of Shaitan will rise, and that it will be from it, and that there will be tribulations therein, and he forbade making supplication for it." This is pages 94 through 95. Sheikh Sulaiman. Imam Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Fayruz died 1216 Hijri, 1801. Murder was attempted on him twice. He said, "I swear to dedicate," quote, "I swear to dedicate my life until I reach the level of ijtihad, that I will fight this innovation.